Good morning. I hope everyone has had a fantastic weekend. Mine was super long. It was good. I was up in Ohio, which was actually it was cooler than here, so that was part was good. Helping my folks out. So yeah. If you're new here, this is part of the show where we talk about the recent news in the last week of the cloud, a lot of the cloud, some of Kubernetes, if there's anything really interesting in Kubernetes to cover. We have a few topics today, and yeah, that's what we do. So welcome to the show, and let me know what you think. I'll try not to cough into the microphone. Anyways, if you're wondering where my regularly scheduled, I don't have regularly scheduled content, but my regular videos, I have been super busy driving up to my parents' farm helping out. So I'll probably do only a few of those this summer, just because I have a lot of stuff on my plate. My dad, for all of you who are wondering who did have an accident, he's doing okay. He's not going to walk for a little while, probably like 3 months at least. And the full recovery is going to be over a year, unfortunately. But he's okay, and so that's the good point. So he's doing fine. I was able to take care of most of the stuff that needed to be taken care. Very small farm, so it's not a big massive farm. So I was able to take care of a lot of the stuff. I got a tree. It's probably about a little over a meter in diameter. For those of you, probably like 3 feet in feet, which is a weird way to measure stuff, but it's oddly makes sense. I got that tree cut out of the bean field. I learned about muscles I had forgotten I had in my forearms holding a chainsaw. They're still sore, but other than that, it was really good. It was good to see them as well. So I worked remotely from up there, so I got to hang out with them throughout the days. Worked in the evenings. Took a little extra time off on some of the days to do some extra work. So it was good. It was good. Uh, was happy I was able to do that. Actually, it was really cool because like being able to work remote, I worked up there and got all my work that I needed to done and was able to help out in the mornings and evenings when we do most of the work anyways because it's cooling off. So it was nice to be able to go help them for a week. So all right. Well, enough. Yeah, a server farm. That would have been hilarious if like my dad ran a data center and we just talked about it as the farm. Um, that would be fantastic. But no, uh, that was not what it was. Bitcoin mining. We have a bunch of GPUs up there. No, 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 no. Took my son out on the quad through the woods. He enjoyed that. He hasn't really gotten to do that a whole lot, so. All right. So, anyways, for those of you who are new, we usually cover security first, then we cover the clouds, then we cover a little bit of Kubernetes, and then we go into a little bit more general discussion. I have a couple interesting topics up for today for the general discussion, and so yeah, let's jump into it before you guys sidetrack me anymore with server farms. That would be fantastic. That's fantastic. Anyways, I probably, maybe not this year because my year is completely shot at this point, but maybe next year I want to do a how to explain Kubernetes if your dad is a farmer. Because I had to do that while he was slightly high on drugs as well, on pain medications. So, like, I got the best of both worlds. It was fantastic, and I have some ideas on how to do that, just in case that's ever you. All right, so let's jump into the news. This was not nearly as fun seeing this. Exposed Kubernetes clusters, organizations at risk of data breach via misconfigured Kubernetes. I have always said people ask, oh, they think these hackers do like these really advanced things. And in the end, and if you've ever been on the hacking live stream, in the end, most of the time it's like really stupid misconfiguration. People just leverage the misconfiguration because they don't have to develop something super sneaky and super advanced if they can just leverage the misconfiguration. Ooh, maybe I can call my server project the farm. I am creating a home data center, which kind of was put on hold because of Dad's accident, but I need to start working on that right away, maybe even today. Okay, and I might call it the farm. And then I can make a video working on the farm. Oh, fantastic. I need to get better at clickbait. Anyways, okay, that is interesting. I don't know how it's showing the wrong tab. It's not showing the right tab. It's not changing tabs. It is only showing a single tab. 1 second. That is weird. How is that even working? Oh, I wonder if it failed. 1 second. Let me try it. So, for any of you wondering how this happens, is I actually have... Oh, that's weird. I actually have the monitor that you guys see that I share is actually going out of the computer into a capture card into the MacBook Pro and out of the capture card into the monitor. So my computer sees it as a monitor. The MacBook Pro sees it as one. It's still just rendering that one frame. Actually, let me unplug it and plug it back in the capture card. We'll see if that fixes it. Let's hope my computer does this, changing resolutions all over the place. Sorry about this. All right. The null farm. I like it. All right, let's see if the capture card is actually functioning. Oh, there we go. It must have, the capture card must have gotten stuck encoding the same frame and was just encoding that frame. That's the only thing I can think of. Dang it, I like the null farm. We're going to have to make shirts about the null farm. Also, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up with the null farm. I like it, Russell. I like it. All right, well, talking about the SFC dropping GitHub is right after the cloud news. So let's jump into this. Okay. So finally, I can see this. Exposed Kubernetes cluster, organization at risk of data breaches via misconfigured Kubernetes. Cool article about almost 1 million Kubernetes clusters exposed across the internet. You can see the breakdown. I would actually, one of the things I would like to see in this report here is the breakdown of Kubernetes clusters. I almost would assume that this mirrors the total Kubernetes cluster ecosystem. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong. I feel like Germany would have more. Germany has quite a few Kubernetes clusters, I think, but they're just probably better at actually configuring their Kubernetes cluster. If you had to guess, these are the ports that you would expect. So 443 is, your standard TLS port. 10.25.0 is actually, I believe that's your kubelet port, so on the nodes. And 6443 is your API server. These two are the ones that I see as really being a big deal. The 443, it depends. It's exposed, but is it a problem? Probably. It all depends on how it's configured. Cattle versus pets on the null farm. Definitely pets. I'm a pets person. Definitely the 4 pieces of hardware in there are pets. All 4 of them. If one of them goes down, I'm screwed. So anyways, this was an interesting article where they went through and found exposed API servers, kubelets, and things like that. So and it's all about misconfiguration of Kubernetes. As I've always said, if you don't need to expose your control plane, you probably shouldn't. That's like the most secure way to make sure that you don't misconfigure something. Just don't expose the control plane. That's the best way of doing it. So yeah. I found this article, Countering Hack for Hire Groups, by the Threat Analysis Group there at Google. It was a good article, so I thought I would bring it up. I only found it because I found a more interesting article that we're going to actually talk about. Spyware vendor targets users in Italy and Kazakhstan. I think that's how you pronounce Kazakhstan. I'm sure that's not how people in Kazakhstan pronounce it, but I hope that's the American English way of saying it. Anyways, sorry if I have destroyed your country's name. Pretty sure it's Italy, though. I'm Italian, so I'm allowed to mispronounce Italy. Anyways. As I was saying, this one was actually very interesting because the really sad part about this is ISPs are propagating it. This is what I found really interesting in this. In some cases, we believe the actors worked with the target's ISP to disable the target's mobile data connectivity. Once disabled, the attacker would send the malicious link via SMS, asking the target to install the application to recover their data connectivity. Another group of NSO and all of that, where the governments and whatnot are working to make your life less secure. This is not good. And if I find a list of these ISPs, well, I'll publish. I won't publish the list because obviously I found the list published, but I'll let you guys know so we can boycott those ISPs. Yep. Go check this out. It was particularly horrifying. I know that we've covered some of the stuff that they're doing in India along the same lines with scanning your retinas and things like that. So, yep. Also, their time servers. Man, I need to start a section on how governments screw up privacy online. All right. I don't want to have that section. This was malicious cyber actors continue to exploit Log4Shell in VMware Horizon systems. So this is a call to patch your systems, people. This has been fixed for a while. You need to patch your system. The Log4Shell it should be all done. But it's not. It's being actively exploited. They've been tracking it being actively exploited. So go check this out if you think that you might not have patched, and go ahead and patch. All right. A wide range of routers are under attack by new, unusual, sophisticated malware. So again, these are your router malwares. Pretty standard. They said new and sophisticated. I didn't find anything new and sophisticated. It's just kind of your standard router malware. This one I did talk about, but there hadn't been a CSV at that point. So there is one now, so you can go ahead and check that out. But this is the container escalation vulnerability. So basically, one of the problems with containers is there are ways to escape them. We patch them whenever we can, but they have been not just proof of concepts. And that's what this is. Now, this didn't get as high of a rating as I thought it should be because this is full privilege escalation. You can take over the host machine with it. So it should be a 10 out of 10. In my books, it should be a 10 out of 10. I think it was like a... I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was like a 9.2. Anyways, definitely if you're running... Now, interestingly here, this is only on Linux containers in Azure, but it's not in Windows container. Even though the problem exists, I guess the Windows system blocks it anyhow. Not sure how that works. Not sure how a Windows container is oddly more secure in this one single instance. But that's what it seems to be. So just Linux containers. All right. So this is, what was this? Oh, the Polkit the pkexec utility. Okay, so this is something that's probably in your system. I also disagree that 7.8 is not the right score because this allows you to execute arbitrary code, which means you can become root if you like. Because it allows you to execute arbitrary code in an It's a little bit hard to do. Maybe that's why it's not as high, and I believe it requires direct access to the machine. But yeah. Anyways, so go check this out if you think that's you. But again, it's been patched in all the major ones. I did check that out. So really, the actual thing is to you have this update. See, it says now everybody knows I use Ubuntu. Would you like to upgrade? Well, maybe not upgrade, but updating your packages. Just go ahead and do that. All right, live patching security vulnerabilities inside the Linux kernel with eBPF Linux security modules. You guys know that I love Cloudflare. They do not sponsor me, but I do like them. I do love their blog articles, and this was actually really cool. We've been talking about eBPF. We're going to have to do something with it in the future. Definitely in the null farm is going to have to do some eBPF stuff, but this was a really interesting way that they use it. Yes, there is a new vulnerability. At least I think. I thought it was a new one. One second, where's the date? This was published on... Oh, no. Wait. I looked at the published date. But it was last year's. I think I ever reported... I'm terrible. I looked at this. For some reason, it came up recent. And I looked at the 2022 and I said, oh, it's a new one. But this was just when it was published in NVD. Dang it. Thank you, Russell. Thank you. You called me out. Excellent. All right. Anyways, this was on eBPF and security. So live patching security vulnerabilities inside the Linux kernel with eBPF Linux security. Don't just trust the publish date. I've learned my lesson. I just looked at that briefly, and it came up in my new... I have something that kind of scrapes the internet, and it came up in my new thing. So I don't know why. It must have been updated. All right. So this was a really cool use of eBPF. I know that we've talked about how programmers and developers kind of struggle to use eBPF and where and why you would use it. And I thought this was a really good application of it. So if you've been struggling with that yourself, I think that this is a good read. So go read it. All right. There is the CISA orders agencies to patch Windows LSA bug exploited in the wild. Kind of your standard stuff. Microsoft found a Raspberry Robin worm in 100. At first, I thought this was like a Raspberry Pi bug, but it's not. It's a Windows bug, and I don't know why it's called Raspberry Robin. But I guess it's been seen all over the place, and it's actually addressing some place on a Tor network. But you're going to maybe see some more stuff on that. And then here's another CVE 2022 of the GitLab remote code execution vulnerability. So there is a patch. It's a 9.9. So, not that fabled 10.0. Very hard to get. But if you're running GitLab, I recommend that you go ahead and check out this CVE and just make sure that you update your system. Make sure that you have a plan in place for patching and patch. Go ahead and patch. It's patch day. All right. Casperry discovers poorly detected backdoor targeting governments and NGOs around the globe. Maybe. Isn't Kaspersky, aren't they Russian? They might be Russian. I think they are. I don't know. I'm not sure if I would trust them right now. Unless if they're not Russian, and then I don't know. And it's not that I have anything against Russians. I just, if it's controlled by the Russian government, that was all. I actually have several friends who are Russian. Anyways, so yeah, we'll see. Let's move on to cloud news. All right. There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, this is kind of a holiday week for the US. These clouds, I didn't see anything in the minor clouds like the DigitalOcean or Cloudflare. I didn't see anything really that big or newsworthy. I did see a couple things in the major clouds, but nothing that I think really will derive a whole lot of conversation. Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth now supports synthetic data generation. So yeah, you can generate labeled synthetic data without collecting large amounts of real-world manually labeled data. So that's kind of nice. I don't. Maybe this is big for somebody. It's not big for me. So if I'm actually just brushing over something that's huge for you, please speak up. It sounds nice, but I don't have a use for it right now. AWS Database Migration Service now supports Babelfish for Aurora Postgres as a target. So again, they're adding support for data migration. So if that is you, you might have a better data migration. Not a huge thing, but a nice to have. Again, that's what all of these seem like. Actually, this might be huge. Now that I said that. Amazon Workmail now supports invoking lambdas to fetch availability. I don't know of anybody that uses Workmail at all. But it's actually pretty cool because if all of your availability was in Amazon Workmail and you could use lambdas, there's so many things that you could do really easy. Like you could make you could make it so that people could schedule on your calendar or at least see your availability for like external people. That would be pretty cool. Another thing that you could do is like I have a if I'm busy light that's powered by a Raspberry Pi that's above my door. So like my kids know that if I'm in a meeting or not. You could do some pretty cool stuff like that with invoking lambdas. All right, that's what I was thinking, that Casper K, again, I don't know that they're not completely legitimate. And so that's what I was kind of like, I didn't mean it that way. I don't have anything to say that they're not completely legitimate. I just know that there are some ties that might mean that unless you're in, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. All right. So anyways, I thought this was cool. I wish that more calendaring mail systems actually allowed you to call these things. This would be pretty cool. I mean, a lot of them have an API, but you have to that is a dredging if there is a dredge. All right, AWS. So AWS data migration. We should have had this together with the Postgres, but they did do 2 updates to database migration service. It allows you to have source and target so that they don't have to be in the same VPC. This is probably bigger than the whole Babel. No, not that. The Babelfish. It's probably true. All right, that's it for AWS. Did I miss anything that you guys saw? Let me know. What's new with Google Cloud? All right, so Cloud Deploy is now available in 5 additional regions, improving performance and flexibility. How this reads makes it sound like adding 5 additional regions improved performance and flexibility, but if you actually go and click on the read more, they improved performance and flexibility and extended it to 5 additional regions, which is, again, confusing way to word it. There was actually quite a bit in the Cloud Deploy, so I think you should read that. If you guys are big into Cloud Deploy, there was a lot of stuff that happened with it, a lot of improvements to it. So yeah, cloud deployment of containers to Anthos user clusters using Connect Gateway is now generally available. Again, pretty big updates there. Now in preview, BigQuery by engine, preferred tables. So you're getting, well, this had nothing to do with Cloud Deploy, but Cloud Deploy is had quite a bit going on for it. So check that out. This was another one, the Postgres interface for Cloud Spanner. Cloud Spanner is now generally available. So, if you're big on Postgres and want to use Cloud Spanner, go for it. There were a couple other things in Google that I wanted to point out. More support for structured logs, a new version of Go logging library. So if you're using the Go logging library or the Google logging client libraries, there were several updates to that made it better. I think that this was pretty cool and definitely worth talking about. So if you're using that, you should probably update to the 1.5 version of that logging library. There was also the advanced API security from Google Cloud. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I want to call it a piggy, a pig. I don't know. It's probably not a piggy, but that's what I'm calling it. And it's probably some word I should know, but a piggy is an advanced security for Google Cloud. So we've talked about how a lot of the clouds, like, well, actually recently it's been Azure. Azure has been busting their little derrieres there on performing this more advanced firewall, and Azure has a pretty good WAF as well. A piggy is a pretty good WAF. At least it looks to be pretty good. They do things for detecting bots and a bunch of other stuff to help out there. So check it out. If you're running on GCP, you should probably be using a piggy. I still don't. Let me know how I'm supposed to be pronouncing that. I probably should have looked that up, but it looked like a piggy to me. I can't not see that anymore. All right, cloud migration metrics now are cloud monitoring metrics. I was all in the migration mode. Now a managed service for Prometheus. Now, GCP's managed Prometheus service is the weirdest thing to me, and it never made sense because it's not actually Prometheus. It's when you say X as a service, I expect it to be X. When you say X as a service and then it's actually Y, it's very weird to me. Now, if you said Y as a service with a Prometheus compatibility layer, that would also make sense to me. That makes sense. But managed Prometheus in GCP isn't managed Prometheus. I forget what it is. I'm blanking on the name, but it's their own database technology in the back end with a Prometheus compatibility layer. So anyways, I get confused by it. So they added more metrics. So they introducing POMQL for Google Cloud monitoring metrics. So kind of what you would expect if you had something like Prometheus. So they're adding more compatibility. Azure kind of let down. All that they had for right now is the preview data sharing for Azure Storage. Good morning, Rubber Cable. Hello, Jubril. It's good to see all of you guys. Welcome. Okay. So they added the match clause for query. The match clause is a query offering that allows you to specify which pattern to be followed while traversing relationships in Azure Digital Twins Graph. So if that's you, it's not me, but if it's you, good luck. Happy matching. Multiple backups per day for Azure virtual machines. So you can now have multiple. You can create a policy for your backup frequency. This is really good if you have a tight backup policy for your disaster recovery. And if you don't have a disaster recovery plan, you should make a disaster recovery plan right now. That is, even if the plan is painful, even if it's painful and you're going to be like, well, in a disaster state, these are the steps I'm going to have to do. Make sure you know the steps and make sure you've practiced those steps in a production-like environment, because when disaster strikes, you want to make sure you know I think this is really what killed Confluence. When Confluence had their 2-week outage, they didn't have a disaster recovery plan. And their plan was a month of outage for people. All right. So, again, you can now do it. You can make your policy a lot tighter, which is good. All right, let's move on to CNCF stuff. This was something I didn't know. I'm not going to it. Let me know if you guys are going to it. I'm actually going to be in San Francisco, in Mountain View, where this is taking place, the week beforehand. Ooh, that's actually a good thing to note for all of you. I'm going to be in California. I don't know if any of you are in California, but if you are, we're happy to hang out, get a cup of coffee. But if you are in Mountain View, I'm going to be doing this show from a hotel room. We're going to see how well it works. I'm not going to bring all of my fancy equipment. It's just going to be like headphones. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's not horrible, but it might be horrible. So yeah, anyways, that's happening. Anybody going to this? ArgoCon seems interesting to me. I would probably go if I could. Is Merrick looking brighter today? Just that radiant glow of being worn out and exhausted and my forearms hurting. Like, it hurts to grip my cup of coffee. Like, I'm loosely gripping my cup of coffee. My forearms hurt so bad. The second day, they were hurting, and I just had to push through it. All right. So many ice packs. My dad was making fun of me while laying in bed. He can't move, and he was still making fun of me for my, I used to do that all day long. So I deserve it. Anyways, anybody going? I'd love to hear from it. I'm going to try to see if hopefully they release the recordings online and we can see it. I'd love to see some of the, hopefully some Argo CD presentations coming out of it. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Name of hotel and room. I said I'd meet you guys at a coffee shop. I'm not that dumb. I said a big city. Not that dumb. Also, like, I'd have to have a large enough following to actually get doxxed properly. Like, the 3 of you guys showing up probably isn't the doxing. Actually, maybe I have a whole bunch of people that hate me. If I have a hate website, that's like the pinnacle of I made it. Let me know when I get that, and I'd love to see it. All right, kubefs accepted as a CNCF incubating project. This is actually the open source projects we're going to check out at the back end. A bunch of different open source file systems for Kubernetes. So kubefs, I have not actually used kubefs. Has anybody here? Would love to see it. Now, if I was the CNCF technical oversight, I think that I would start rejecting a few more projects. It feels bloated to me. It feels like they're accepting anything that says CNCF that, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. It feels bloated to me, but maybe it's not. I feel like in like 2 or 3 years, it's going to be kind of a boneyard. Although, that's acceptable. As somebody once told me, like, the CNC, or they told me that they thought that the Apache project, or the Apache group, was kind of either mission critical or boneyard. And I think that actually is good. And the reason is because it means that the Apache project actually matured projects and was able to see what worked and what didn't work. And the things that didn't work kind of go to the boneyard. And the things that work become mission critical. And so that's what the Apache project does. It takes these things. And so maybe this is okay. Maybe this is their goal. They're going to have a lot of boneyard projects, but maybe that's just fine. Maybe that's their goal. So maybe we'll see how it turns out. I'm just hoping that it doesn't get so big and it just kind of implodes on each other because they did so rapidly. That was my concern. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the evidence of a mature, stable group organization, is that they have these boneyard projects where they can say, well, yeah, we're done with that. All right, DevOps versus SRE versus platform engineering. The gaps might be smaller than you think. You know, rubber cable, the DevOps way of fail often, fail fast, maybe that's bad logic. You know what? I think taking anything to an extreme is bad logic. Okay? So you could say, like, let's hold to sprint, never plan anything, and just keep rapidly iterating on something. And I think that you can get yourself to a place, if you never stop to think and never think to design something in advance, you can get yourself in a very bad spot very quickly. So I think taking any motto and holding to it too extremely can be detrimental. I know that there's going to be people that hop onto that and say, you know, there's exceptions, and maybe there's exceptions. But I think the general rule is never push something to the extreme. In the extremes, you find these weird things, and generally they work because you don't push them to the extremes. So yeah, I think that the fail often and fail fast, I really like them, but don't push them to extremes. Don't take them to these weird things where you refuse to do anything, ahead of time, or try not to fail because you're like, oh, I'm just going to fail fast and I'm just going to write a bunch of crappy code that I didn't even think about, and we'll just see how it fails. Now you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say dogma. Well, I don't know. Maybe I would say dogma bad. Maybe I would. But these things are guidelines. These things are things to keep in mind while doing them. I like this one, the DevOps versus SRE versus platform engineering. Now, I put this in the Cloud News because it was in the CNCF blog, but it's the last thing, and it's kind of into our interesting topic, so I thought I'd put it in here in this odd mishmash between the two things. I want to do some videos on this because I want to explore this topic. And I actually want to do some videos where I talk to different people, because you'll get people who are highly opinionated one way or another. They're like, don't you dare call me a DevOps engineer. A DevOps is a mentality of an engineer. And if you're a DevOps engineer, then you're shoehorning me into this thing. But then you also have these SREs, and what does an SRE do, and what do they do, and what is your organization? And I would say that anybody that holds too strongly to one is putting process over people. If you're like, this is an SRE, period, then you're putting process over people. And maybe your people, the number of people you have, or the expertise they have, doesn't fit in that. And this is where everything like this needs to think about people over process. You can't say an SRE for all companies does X, period. And maybe your company calls DevOps engineers and they do an SRE job. Like, I don't know. I think that this is an interesting topic and something I'd love to talk about with a group of people and kind of condense it down, because I think that this could really help all of us understand the differences and the similarities. I think particularly SRE and platform engineering are very, very, very similar. I would have a very hard time. The DevOps one is a little bit harder because everybody considers it differently. Everybody is going to Twitter to flame me right now, and maybe I do now have a group that wants to dox me. So like I said, I won't tell you when I'll be in Mountain View. So anyways, I like this article. I don't agree everything that they're saying here. I think that a lot of it is really good. And so I think that you should read it, keep an open mind with like some of the problems you see, some of the benefits you see, and let me know what you think. I'm putting this as the engineering blog of the week. mainly because I didn't find a better blog. But I also think that it's a topic that we need to talk about because so many people get bent out of shape off of one or the other. All right. Rubber Cable says, we might have to call it in. I know the word, and let me figure out how to pronounce it. Yes, I kind of agree. All right. This is a particularly interesting piece of cloud news, of open source news. There is this thing called the Software Freedom Conservancy. Can't speak early in the morning, especially on. I mean, this is everyone's favorite holiday. July 4th, the entire world parties. It's not limited to the United States. It's the best thing to happen to the world. I'm a stupid, filthy American. I realize it. I'm joking. I'm not joking. Favorite holiday. Sorry, Russell. All right. Anyways, it is a national holiday in the U.S. because probably you don't know. Anyways, the SFO quits GitHub. If you want your project to be managed under the SFO, you cannot, or SFC. I don't know why I said SFO. I think that's because that's San Francisco's airport, and every time I see SF, I think SFO. Anyways, SFC it is is quitting. You can read it here. This had a little bit better of a conversational post on it. The only way I know it's a holiday is because the markets are closed. That's a proper Brit on Independence Day. That's a proper one. So anyways, I like the breakdown that the Register gave of it, but what it's doing here, if you read it and understand, they're very, very upset with Copilot. I guess they'd be upset with Code Whisperer too. So they're not going to let you run any of your open source on AWS as well because the Code Whisperer. But I can't help but whisper when I say that. I'm sorry. That's what I should have called my YouTube channel, the Code Whisperer. Dang it. That I would have had more subscribers. The Code Whisperer. I'm also not that narcissistic. Okay, so they have a big problem. My understanding is they don't want people to get paid off of open source, which really rubs me the wrong way. And the reason it rubs me the wrong way, you can read their defense of it, the whatnot, but we all use Linux. I get paid by using Linux. I program on it. I use it as my desktop. I write stuff on Linux that runs in Linux. All of these. If no one was allowed to get paid when using open source software, the internet would shut down. I think that would just shut down. Another problem I have with this is I'm a self-taught software engineer. I taught myself almost everything I know. And I say that I taught myself by going to open source projects. I have a neural network up here that went in and absorbed what other people were doing in open source projects. I went to Kubernetes and I read the Kubernetes code. I tried to understand how it worked and why they did the things that they did. And most of the things that they did were because Go sucked and they had to work around the language. But that's how I learned. But this is my point. So they say it's because the code is being taken, but the attribution wasn't. So I have 2 points to that. First, the attribution is for the entire project or large segments of it, which counts as modification. If you're doing 1 or 2 lines that look very similar, then it's not really copying and pasting. A lot of these actually, regurgitate it with variable names that make sense for the project or that were, named appropriately up there. If you actually look at anything that the CodePilot is generating, it's actually generating code for you. It's not copying and pasting off of something. It's generating some code that's specific to your section right there. Now, it might be very similar and trained off of something else, but so was mine. Most of the code I write isn't actually code that I thought of. Um, well, I have a book I was going to show you, but I read a lot of programming books that had code that I learned from. But I did most of it from open source, not just books. Um, but that's my point. Do I have to attribute every line? I don't even remember where I learned a lot of it. So where did I learn this technique of a for loop? It was probably an open source project. Do I have to attribute it? That's, I think, the hard rub here is I don't think, A, legally they need to, and B, I don't think that this is a bad use of open source. You made your code available for people to learn from. They made a machine that can learn from it. Lego bricks for non-devs. The thing about Lego bricks for non-devs, and the reason I don't think that that will take root, is to put the Lego bricks together and do something interesting, you actually have to understand what the Lego bricks do. And so you might have Lego bricks for non-devs, but it will be devs that are using them because they have to actually understand what those bricks do to put them together in a way that actually works and makes sense. That would be my understanding there. So anyways, yes, this was probably trained on open source code. Can you learn from open source without attributing? Because I did. I think that opens up a very large thing of, because again, Copilot is generating code from being trained. It's not copying and pasting. It's actually a big difference. Because it actually generates new things. It's like GDP3 where you can actually have it write a book. It's generating new code there. It's generating a completely new book. Now, it was trained off of works. Yes, it was. But did it need to attribute those works? So when you ask GDP3 to write you a book, it will do it. Do you have to attribute every single book that it read in as a reference point? No, you don't. It generated a new thing based off of everything that it learned. And I don't think Copilot is really any different. At least that's my point. I assure you that they have many lawyers. They could be wrong, and they could get in legal trouble for it. And I could be wrong. That's just how I see it. If I have something that I train to generate code, I don't know that that's much different than me learning something and generating new code from that. Yeah, it's people's feelings, but I guess for me, why do you do the open source? I guess for me, open source is a place to learn, help, and grow a community. So I guess for me, if my code, my crappy code, could make Copilot better, go for it. Take my code, all of it, and don't give me any credit. I don't need it. The fact is, my code will never be used for GDP3 or for Copilot. It sucks. All right. All right. I guess that's my feelings on it. That will be in a null byte. I know that I haven't done any more null bytes. I actually did edit one while on the farm, so hopefully I'll be releasing that tonight. And then I'm going to be getting some more of them out. They're super easy to make. I just have to do them. And so I'll be getting those out to you guys shortly. For all of you who missed this, that's on a separate channel. Another question for all of you long timers that make it this far. Would you mind if the live part of this moved to Twitch? I feel like that's what most people do, is they have a Twitch stream. Because I've also thought about streaming some of the null farm, the null farm as we make it. I really do like that, Russell. I'm gonna have to trademark that. But I really do like streaming some of that, and we also do some live streams of hacking and just some general programming. Didn't know if you guys would be interested in that, and if so, I would move this to that live channel. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts. The FSS, the FSF is also one, but no, this is the the SFC as well. All right, should we move on to general news? General things. My thing is, division isn't going to help open source at all. And for me, open source is about community, about growing and helping one another. It's about taking what you know and sharing it. And I guess that's not open source for everyone. And what open source is to you is important. And maybe we need different licenses to reflect what open source is to you. I feel like MIT and Apache 2 kind of resound for me, although I don't even want attribution. You can take my code and do whatever you want with it as long as there's no warranty to you. I don't want to be on the stake for holding it or for supporting it. Stack Overflow has their own thing, don't they? One second, let me look it up. So the license on Stack Overflow, the content is distributed under this. The content distributed from this to this is distributed under this. The content So the latest one is this. The Creative Commons. Attribution Share Alike 4.0. So attribution. So Russell, that's my big thing. If there's like the SSPL, or there are licenses to say I don't want you to use my code, or even the AGPL, which is a lot more copyleft and restrictive, that says, yeah, I don't want this. If you use the MIT or Apache 2, which is what I use all my stuff under, you're saying go for it. And I literally, I'm writing the null database with you guys, and I make some videos on it. If some company figures out some way to make money off of it, I'll be like, good job, excellent work. Like that's fine. I put it out there for learning, and if you guys are learning from it, that's really what I want, and I need to make the next video on that, don't I? I need to do log compaction. Russell, I like your we should come up with the ultimate open source license. Russell says, if I had a project that was popular, I put a clause in the license stating that if any company that demands a fix or for me to fill out a security questionnaire would immediately revoke their license. See, what a company should do is pay you for that. They should be like, hey, we'll pay you $500 to fill out a security questionnaire. That's the fair way to do it. It's something they need, and you'll help them. But yeah, anyways, this is what it's Creative Commons license for. So anyways, that is my feelings. Now, if they're doing something with licenses that aren't MIT or Apache, I get it. But I think you also have legal standing then, too. If you put yourself out there as MIT or Apache, I just don't actually think that you have, and again, it's all about intent. Your intent is to put it out there to help people. And that's where I see it. And so I think that this should be solved at the license layer. And if we need a new license to say that you want people to be able to learn from your content and use it that way, maybe we need a new license. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the licenses are too vague. Licenses are vague a little bit on purpose, but yeah. Wait. I don't understand. Patreon, OnlyFans? You guys want me to open an OnlyFans? I don't think you guys want to see me open it. Like I told you, I'm pretty weak. I don't know what you're going with here, Rubber Cable. I don't know. Should I just do an OnlyFans of like my home, my... I should just post pictures of the Null farm. Man working on farm. That's what it's going to be. You get me seen there hanging my server rack in overalls. Yep. Okay. This is not happening, by the way. Not happening. Let's move on. Or is OnlyFans how we're going to support open source in the future? Watch me code on OnlyFans. Okay, that's fantastic. All right. Yep. Anyways, this has gone down the tubes. Let's move on then. If you guys would like to talk more about it, let's talk about it on Discord. Jump on there, argue about it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. GitOps repos. 5 lessons on what to include and what to skip. I like this, and I wanted to bring it up to get it thinking. I'm not sure that I agree, especially lesson 3. Leave out state co-managed by specialized components. I would say don't co-manage anything. Co-managing sucks, so avoid co-managing anyways. This almost feels like they took a proprietary system and shoved it into a GitOps system. So maybe he's correct, but I would also say you could design the system to be managed by a GitOps style, and then you don't have to worry about that co-managed thing. So I feel like the co-manage is just a code smell to me. But anyways, like I said, I think it's actually a really good thought exercise because we talk about GitOps. But what do we mean when we say GitOps? What do you manage when we say GitOps? We're actually having this argument. I've had this argument with many people. And what does it mean and how can you use it? So, yeah, it's a good article to get the brain juices flowing. I liked it. And I would recommend if you're thinking about GitOps, which I highly recommend you do, you read this article. I think the one that I like the best. Which one was this? Oh, well, also this is like avoid secrets and certificates. No duh. Hey, if you're just joining, welcome, and please ignore the rest of the previous chat. It won't make any sense how we got to OnlyFans. I also love how Google censored OnlyFans. not only did it censor it, it requested me to approve it. Okay. So anyways, I really recommend you read this article if you're wanting to get into GitOps, because at least it gets you thinking about the topic of what do you put in it? What do you put in a database and what do you put in Git? I think it's important, and it was cool. So read it. Dino's Fresh uses server-side rendering for faster apps. I have a question. Do we need another Node.js app? I know it's Dino and not Node.js, but do we need Dino? I don't know. I don't know if we need another Node.js. It's there. I'm not a front-end person. Let me know what you guys think about this, because I'd like to know better. I've been learning some front-end. I can do basic React. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I know nothing. I just don't know the vast ocean of tools out there. It's like the backend is so simple. What do you use to schedule containers? Kubernetes. Oh, okay. And then the front end, it's like, what JavaScript framework do you use? And they're like, whoa. Framework? You mean frameworks? And it's like they string together 20 of them. And it gets confusing. I'm not smart enough to do front-end development. I'm just not. It's too confusing. Too many tools. All right, I like this. The Git goat. This goes with the GitOps that we were talking about. I should have done it right together. But Git goat is looking for misconfigured GitHub organizations. So this is really cool. You should definitely check it out. It allows you to basically penetration test your Git repo of your GitHub. So if you're doing doing a lot with Git and the Git API, this is pretty cool. All right. Vim 9.0 is here with a new script language promising performance boosts. New Vim script 9. Why not just Python? I hate Python, but why not just Python? Why not Python? Why not Perl? Why not C++? Why Vim script 9? I don't know. This is the thing that annoys me most about Vim. All right, moving on. All right, we already talked about that. Oh, okay. Hopefully, the null farm will have RISC-V chips in it. That is my end goal, is to get a RISC-V chip in here and get Kubernetes running on it in the null farm so we can run RISC-V nodes. That would be super cool. Why not Lua? I didn't say Lua. I hate Python. I really do hate Python. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of when it's abused. I think that Python has some really great uses. If you're saying let's write a single page script that will kind of just run on any system and just work, I think Python is fantastic for that. I think Python's really great for data analysts who don't actually want to learn how to write a good application and want to do some fast, rapid iteration. Python is great for those things. And then Python falls over at everything else. It fails really slowly. It fails in production because of a typecast error, because it couldn't know for some reason that type was the wrong type. It's really bad in some aspects. But yeah. I just don't understand Vim script. That's all my point was. I'm glad that they made it faster. I just don't understand why I would learn a new language to write in Vim. And I like Vim. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on Vim. I am hating on Vim. But I feel like when I like a tool, I'm allowed to nitpick some of the things that they do. And that's one of them. Also, don't spend your time, waste your time creating a new language when there's so many. Freaking C#. Throw C# in there. I don't even care. Ugh. I don't want to write C# though, by the way. All right, fact sheet. Oh yes. Oh yes, this was fun. Almost headline news, except that if you actually read it, it's not as interesting. Like, it's not actually doing anything. So the President Biden to sign an executive order on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. So a lot of people are pointing to this as the cryptocurrency, like, legislation. And what the executive order said, what it said, and my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, don't take this as lawyer speech, that our government agencies need to make regulation on it. So basically, what's going to happen is in the future, it's now made a priority. The executive order said this is now a priority. We need to regulate digital assets, which I'm glad the wording was very specific. And I'm actually happy about the wording, because if you said blockchain and you watched my last real video that I released, blockchain is a lot of stuff. And regulating blockchain like you do a cryptocurrency would be asinine and stupid, but it's something I would expect our government to do because they don't actually understand. I don't even think a lot of people in tech understand. Hence, I made that video. I thought that it was clickbait title, and everybody has told me that it's not actually clickbait, and that I actually completely fail at clickbait as a whole. So, all right. So this was good. I like this. We'll see. I'll follow up with what the regulations actually come out with. Yeah, this was to cover NFTs. You're right, Rubber Cable. It was a little bit wider of not just yeah. Bram. When he created no, C# was not around when VimScript was created. That was not what I was meaning. But you could deprecate VimScript and just say we're going to use Python. That was my point. Like, stop working on it. Talking about C# though, I know that this is not Rubber Cable's, Russell's favorite language, and he's an expert. I found this. The ECMA 6th edition, June 2020 C# language specification. Holy crap. I'm sorry for the person that wrote this. Yes, it's 600 some pages long, 615. Like, it gives me carpal tunnels just to get through the spec. I didn't realize that these specs were written for languages in this detail. I mean, other than C++. I read the C++ and Rust specs, so I guess I did know. I didn't know C#. I thought they were all like agile and no spec. We're just going to create something and fail fast. But no. This was cool. I saw it. I learned a lot from the Roslyn compiler. This is what I love about open source. The Roslyn compiler was when C# became open source, and I taught myself everything I know about creating a language from C#. It was really cool. And the Roslyn compiler was fantastic. And so I'm not suggesting you go read this spec, but it's out there. It's cool. All right, that's it. That's it for me this week. That's all I could do while I was on my phone taking, breaks when my forearms were feeling like dead. I was literally using my pinky on the tailgate of the truck, trying to scroll because my arms hurt. I looked like a little T-Rex out there, like scrolling through stuff on my phone. It was dumb. Yeah. So, all right. So now I usually have a time here for some open source projects and just a little conversation if you guys want it. I know we've had some conversation already. C# does have some amazing features. If you guys don't know already, I like to hate on everything and I like to poke fun at everything. So if I take your favorite thing and I poke fun of it, like C#, I actually think C# does some really cool things. And actually, C# and the Roslyn compiler revolutionized even like Java, and some of those things took some things from it. They did some things really, really well. And if you're talking about an open source language, they did things really, really well. Think Swift. actually like Swift as a language spec better, but Apple completely destroyed the Swift language by destroying it every single move. It was horrible. If I was going to write a garbage collected language, it'd probably be Go. If I had to write a more fully managed language, because I don't consider Go to be that fully managed, it would probably be C#, I think. I don't like garbage collected because it's burned me too much in production. Even Go has. Even Go, I've had Go's garbage collector do some weird things in production. I just don't like garbage collector. That's why I like Swift. Swift did it all with Arc, which Arc can cause you to do some weird things. And you can have memory leaks in weird ways where you hold mutual references, and they have the whole weak versus strong reference. Dumb. But it's cool because then you don't have a garbage collector, and the garbage collector doesn't do weird things on you. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to deal with magic. If you get that's generally my gist. Magic is too complicated for me, and garbage collectors are too magical for me, and so that's my biggest problem with them, is they're too magical. I don't understand them. I'm too dumb, and yeah. All right, let's talk about these open source projects. I picked them specifically because of the announcement of kubefs. kubefs is a cloud-native storage platform that provides both POSIX-compliant and S3-compatible interfaces. It is hosted by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation as an incubating project. All right, so what does that mean? It's a distributed file store. It's a distributed file system, and it's POSIX and S3-compatible. I really only... this is actually kind of a cool combo, because it means that you could use the same store as a POSIX store or an S3 compatible. Now, I've never used kubefs, so I don't know how hard it is to manage. Some, as we'll see later, like Ceph, are horrifying. I ceph. Ceph is super cool, and the papers are super awesome to read. If you ever tried to manage a Ceph cluster, I would rather go hungry eating soybeans out of a field than manage a Ceph cluster. Like, it's just maddening. It's the absolute worst. Anyways, let's talk about file systems here for Kubernetes. These are file systems for Kubernetes. Now, a lot of people point to me and say that I'm biased because I shortly worked for Rancher. I worked for Rancher for like 2 or 3 months, okay? Let's be clear. I'm not super biased. Actually, generally, if I've worked for a company, I hate their stuff more because I actually know the back end, and I'm like, oh no, that's horrifying. That's a dumpster fire waiting to happen because I actually understand it. So generally, I'm less biased to companies that I've worked for. That being said, my personal favorite currently is Longhorn. It's not the most fully featured, but it is the easiest of the open source file systems. And I say file systems, it's a block storage system for Kubernetes. Like I said, it's not the most fully featured, but if you're wanting easy, Longhorn is really probably the easiest. It's probably what the null farm is going to be using, I'm pretty sure. And I do like it. Now, there's also Glustered and Ceph, the Ceph file system. Way more powerful, way better, but it's just way too complicated. I'm trying to keep things simple for the Null Ranch. Null Ranch, Null Farm. I think Null Farm is better, not the Null Ranch. So yeah, those are the ones I wanted to point out. These are the ones I know of. POSIX compliant file system. So anything that can use a POSIX compliant file system can use Ceph. Just like kubefs. We won't talk about Longhorn and Gluster. So what have you guys used? What do you guys like? I actually think it's not a fair comparison for OpenShift or OpenStack versus Kubernetes. I know that you brought that up. I don't think that that's a very fair comparison. They're actually, I know a lot of people do, and there's things that try to do HCLs out of it, but Windows Vista called Longhorn. Oh, MinIO. I did forget about MinIO. Let me pull that up. That was my bad. Thanks, Rubber Cubel, for keeping me honest. Actually, that's the second time. You guys are keeping me honest a little too much. One time in a day. I accidentally had a CSV from last year, and now I forgot MinIO. MinIO offers high-performance S3 compatible object storage. So this is kind of an interesting thing here. MinIO is S3 compatible. Ceph is POSIX compliant. There are kind of two different ways of looking at it. Generally, I like the S3 compatible because then you can write everything like it was S3. And if you move to the cloud, it works. Every single cloud supports the S3 interface. If you move not to the cloud, it's also supported. So I think I prefer the S3 compatible storage. Also because everything can just reference it like that. But what do you guys like? What are you guys liking? What do you guys use it? What does the null community use on a day-to-day basis? Oh, that's actually a pretty cool usage. So, and if I understand what Rebel Cable is saying, he says MinIO is great for mocking an infra that you plan to implement with S3 one day. Now, this is an interesting topic because one of the problems with cloud is actually testing your app locally, especially if you use a bunch of cloud systems like S3. So you could actually use MinIO in like a Docker Compose that spins up MinIO that allows you to test locally. Is that what you're saying, Rubber Cable? Because that's actually a pretty interesting way of using it. I like that. I think I like that. I've never actually tried that. That sounds cool. Sometimes the sounds cool and actually in practice are vastly different, but it sounds cool. Yeah, yeah. I always get stuck on that. Sometimes I'm like, this sounds really cool. This has to be fantastic. I get into it and I'm like, this absolutely sucks. It's the worst thing ever invented. And yeah. Anyways, so well, that's it for me, guys. Do you guys have anything else? Thank you all for jumping on. Thank you for liking. Thanks for putting this, helping me. Leave me any feedback that you have on this. If you like it, if you don't like it, what you don't like about it. I'd love to hear those things. I know that I have things docketed to improve this, a little bit more animations, a little bit more screen stuff. But with my dad's health, I've had to put some of those things on hold. So don't expect too much improvement until probably this fall or winter. I'm sorry to push it out that far. But it would be either improving those things or actually doing the show. So I'll do the show and push those improvements till later. So if there's nothing else, if you guys have nothing else, I will wish you guys a fantastic week. Celebrate everyone's in the world's favorite holiday, July 4th, Independence Day. This is the day that aliens invade. As soon as we get past July 4th, we know there's no aliens. We know that we're safe for another year. This is like one of the most fantastic holidays. July 4th, safe for an entire year. So, thankfully to the United States, we know we're safe for a whole nother year. Thanks, Russell. And I hope that you guys... So I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And I didn't mean any